All right, time for a week 3 update video. We had some interesting results this week. Casey beats me 9-6-1. Frank beats JW in one of the greatest VTL mismatches of any single week matchup ever. Uh, Brad and Corey tie, second straight tie for Brad, I believe. French beats Jeremiah, who just cannot get pitching to work. Bo loses to Maffey, and our number one team goes down big to Alex, who really needed it. So yeah, some cool results. I think this was a fun week. It just shows our parity is in a good place. I want to start actually this week by looking at some of the individual VTLs on a historical basis. And the most jarring thing I saw from any of the recap I've done so far, Frank, his batting was good for a 99th percentile outcome in our league's history. We've had 1,482 results in the past. 1,482 different offensive VTLs to measure against. Frank had the 11th best offensive week in league history this week. Incredible. His opponent, JW, who had a .13% historic VTL. That is good for 1,480th out of 1,482, aka third worst of all time. We're talking 1,500 results, and we have the 11th best of all time facing the third worst of all time. Just the sheer odds that those two would be facing each other on the week where we have such historically bad and good numbers is just incredible. So just thought that was so historically you know crazy that I had to bring it up. You see another dark black number here. That's Jeremiah's pitching, which was 1,472 of 1,482. That is 11th worst of all time. Pretty wild. A couple really big numbers as well. Frank's total VTL was exceptional. It was a top 100 number of all time. Jeremiah's batting, to offset the pitching, 112th of all time. And then my pitching, 103rd of all time. So just Frank's batting being like a truly historically good number. A lot of really strong numbers as well. 80th percentile results historically. Casey, 85%, 86% batting with still strong pitching. Alex used a really strong pitching week to beat Nate, who was also really good at pitching, but just not quite as good. And then Nate's offense really struggled while Alex's offense was pretty middle of the road. So anyway, I know that this maybe gets confusing. That is what these colors are designed to show you. Green being like a really, really, really good week. Blue being a like historically exceptional week. Black being historically bad. Red being like that's really, really bad. Orange being, hey, this is a noteworthy bad week. So a team like French this week was like within the bounds of really, really bad to really good, for example. I don't think I've shown that too much before, but it's always something I have a lot of fun with. So let's go look over at, come on, what's going on here? Well, I'll just have to use my mouse for everything. Keyboard's dead. So here is our updated Fantrax standings and luck percentages, as well as the current streak teams are on. So Frank is number one in the standings with a bye projected today. Casey joins him at the top two. I'm not sure if Casey's ever been top two in the Fantrax standings ever before, so things are looking up for Casey. Playoffs or bust, even though that was the name last year and it didn't happen. It's still playoffs or bust, and 59% Fantrax win percentage is nothing to scoff at. Winning streak of 3 as well, the only team to have won all 3 matchups this year. Maffey hasn't lost, but he also tied, so Casey kind of gets the little bump there. You can look at the rest of these. We're going to talk about luck here in a moment, so I think we'll just skip over that. Right now, in terms of VTL, here is the dashboard. Gosh, this is hard with just a mouse. What is going on with the keyboard, man? was turned off. Here's our VTL numbers. Nate and Frank nestled kind of up together at the top. And me and Casey right behind. Sorry, I just messed up something on my video feed here. What a mess. Me and Casey are next, clustered together, but way ahead of the rest. Maffey and Bo have identical VTLs, which is so funny because they've both had one exceptional week and 2 bad weeks. Brad, Jeremiah, Corey, Alex, and French all separated by like less than 2.5% or roughly 2.5% VTL. And every one of them has a terrible half and a half that's not so terrible or really good in Jeremiah's case, but paired with a really bad pitching. And then there's JW at the bottom right now in VTL, 4% below, 3% below the next worst team in French. This was just such a bad week that the VTL this early in the season, it's really going to show strongly when you have that big of an outlier bad week. A few things with the luck. French, Bo, and Frank have enjoyed really lucky starts in terms of what their opponents are putting out. I mean, Bo literally has had in 3 weeks, the total pitching VTL of his opponents is 26.7. And that is like below worst in the league level, 3 weeks in a row. So quite fortunate there. It doesn't mean that Bo is a fluke, but it does mean that the numbers he's had to generate to beat that has not been particularly high. A couple teams have been really bad luck. Jeremiah, JW, Nate, Corey. You know, we're seeing like Jeremiah, for example, has had a historically good batting VTL, 75%, but he's had to face 65%. So even though he's gotten up that high, he hasn't necessarily captured every single category like you would assume because he's faced extremely good batting right back at him. And facing 60% pitching VTL, meaning he's basically winning almost nothing there because his pitching is 17% through 3 weeks. So tough sledding, but it will get easier. Of course, I've said that a couple weeks in a row, and your numbers are still really kind of the same. So here's our power rankings. This was a really tough week to do power rankings because there's so much uncertainty. So many teams are not really doing what I thought they would do, and there are so many teams clustered together that are just not looking great so far. You could probably shuffle 5 through 12 in any way that you wanted, and it wouldn't like offend me. Even me at 4, Casey at 3, I still like we still have something to prove. Nate and Frank feel pretty comfortably 1 and 2, but the tier names that I've assigned to these groups this week. Tier A is Nate and Frank, and I'm just you two again. Same people we've seen at the top last year, battling it out, presumably the best 2 teams of the early season. Casey and I are not dominant, but good, I think. I'd like to see it maybe a little longer for the both of us. My offense is just super concerning. And Casey's won 3 weeks in a row, and this was his best week by a lot. But the other 2 weeks really weren't overwhelming, and so whether he could really become a contender, we have to kind of wait and see. Tier C is, my gut says you're way better than this, Alex and Jeremiah. It just feels like they have cores that should be better. And for Alex, it's like on both sides of the ball. But for Jeremiah, the offense is historically good. Like the best group in our leagues, 24 different like subgroups, offense and hitting for all 12 teams. The best, most dominant group, even if he goes to 35 or 40%, a bad number on pitching, he'd be beating teams. But the pitching is that bad right now, and I just don't think any staff can perform that badly for an extended stretch. But this is the 3rd week I'm saying that, so this is definitely a gut call. Maffey and Bo, 1 great week versus 2 bad weeks. Don't really know how to square that. The 2 bad weeks have both been bad, not just average, right? So not sure. If I see another really good week next week from either one of these teams, then maybe I can just say, okay, well, you're just like a volatile team. But until then, until I see another like decent VTL, it's going to be hard to put a lot of stock. But you've shown a flash of something truly exceptional, and so here I am in this weird dilemma. Not terrible, but not good yet. I really didn't know what to do with these, and I know it's jarring to see JW down at the bottom because he was, I think, number 5 or 6 last week. But when you put up that bad of a week, and your VTL is 3% worse than the 11th place team, who's 1.5% worse than the 10th place team, it's really hard to justify why you'd be above the others. By the numbers, they've performed better. Brad, Corey, French, really you could put in any order. And honestly, I think of JW as good as any of those teams or better. But the numbers and the momentum are pushing you towards the bottom there, JW. So my apologies, sir. Someone's got to be on the bottom every week. And yeah, this group, you could probably flip it just about any direction. One strong week from any of these teams, and I honestly wouldn't have any problem bumping any of them up above Bo or Maffey into this tier. We're in a really fluid state right now. A lot of competition. Really, there isn't a definitive fifth place team right now. And like I said, I mean, I have questions about Casey and myself. So, wide open league. I think that's really fun. I'm enjoying the early start of this season. And it's nice to see Nate didn't go undefeated, frankly. Sorry, Nate. But it's good for competition if we have a little bit more of a 1-2 race going on at the top. Hopefully we get a little more parity as we continue. And yeah, it's been a fun week. So hopefully week 4 is just as fun. Schedule-wise, here's what we're looking at next few weeks. I'll let y'all look at that if you want, but nothing particularly notable, I don't think. But yeah, it's been fun. So hopefully week 4 continues.